Basically, he's back.
I was surprised at how soon it was. I figured the guy would at least take a year off
I think this is great timing for the Bucks.
because all of a sudden there's 20 or so free agents that the Buccaneers had out there that could have been going to other teams.
Tom Brady spent 40 days at home, retired, decided retirement was for him. Over the weekend, made the statement, I believe it was on his Instagram or regardless, put on his social media, long-winded letter. Basically, he's back. With that, I mean, first off, what were your thoughts? I know you were busy this weekend, so I'm not sure if you saw it when it happened. I happened to have just woken up from a nap, and I see that he was retired. But anyways, what were your thoughts and reactions when you saw on your phone the notification that Mr. Thomas Brady is returning?
Well, I was in a pretty unique situation because I was at a wedding, and Matt Rule, head coach of the Carolina Panthers, was also at that wedding. Didn't get to meet him, unfortunately, because about 10 minutes after I look at my phone and the Tom Brady news was announced, he and his family left. And I have to imagine it might have been related to that because obviously the Panthers in the division with the Buccaneers, that is a pretty big shift, especially since it was the day before free agency opens. And so I imagine that it was an appropriate time to leave by that point. So it wasn't like he, stormed out in the middle of the ceremony or anything. But still, I imagine that he saw the news and needed to get back to Carolina as soon as possible. I wasn't shocked. I was surprised at how soon it was. I figured the guy would at least take a year off. But I thought he was done for sure. But at the same time, it's Tom Brady. We all know how much he loves football. So if he did come back, like I said, I wasn't shocked. But the fact that it was only 2 months, I don't know what happened during those 2 months that really made him reconsider. Maybe he just sat there at home and, I think a lot of people, they think, oh, well, he has all this money and he's got a, supermodel wife and all this kind of stuff. Tom Brady has never been the kind of person throughout his entire life to like indulge in that because all he does is play football. Like obviously during the offseason, he probably does, but like he's probably one of the most regiment oriented people on the planet and just the way that he goes about things. And so I bet being away from that probably just really threw him off. And so he announces that he's coming back a day before free agency, which is pretty key because all of a sudden there's 20 or so free agents that the Buccaneers had out there that could have been going to other teams that he sent that message. He's going to come back. We already saw it played into Ryan Jensen. He returned to the Buccaneers, got an extension.
Apparently, Brady called him, I think the night before. It was Saturday night. I forget when he officially announced, but apparently he called Ryan, the center, and told him that they're running it back. So
yeah, so I'm sure that's probably why we haven't seen any news on some of these other Buccaneers free agents yet, like Leonard Fournette. They tagged Chris Godwin, right?
I didn't. Let me see. I don't see that actually in my.
I can't remember. I don't know if they did. But Carlton Davis re-signed as well. So I mean, there's already been some movement since the Tom Brady announcement that the Buccaneers have been able to keep some players, and this is big for the Buccaneers because they were about to be in quarterback hell, and maybe this allows for them to, really evaluate their options and see a potential replacement.
They did tag Godwin.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, doesn't really affect him that much. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't shocked. This is good for the Buccaneers. At the same time, I don't know how much they can improve off of last year's roster talent-wise, because they just don't have a lot of cap space and they do have a lot of free agents. So I think their best chance is they can really run it back with a lot of players that they already had and hope that things go better this time.
Yeah. In regards to if I was a little bit shocked. I wasn't too surprised. I've been, anyone that's kind of been listening to Pro Football Focus, they've been mentioning it was very real that Brady, if Sean Payton was going to go to Miami, that he wanted to go there. There was a little bit of realism to maybe some of the friction between Bruce Arians, but I'm guessing that they both got over it because Bruce Arians also seemed very excited. Per some reports, they said that he was ready to run it back as well. But yeah, I think you really hit it on the head. I think this was great timing for the Bucs because, especially since we saw some dominoes start to fall, Russell Wilson We talked about that last week, going to Denver, and then we might talk about, but some other quarterbacks started moving, and I'm sure the Bucks also looked at the quarterback draft class, and even where they were too in the late 20s. Like, it's going to be hard to maneuver for them to maneuver up in the class. And then, do you really feel great about any of everyone? I'm almost done with my with the quarterbacks, but I will say it's not as good as it's been in the previous years. There's still like some good quarterback, but not any slam. There's not a slam dunk. This guy, is the number one, or this guy's gonna be great. So I'm sure the Bucks are relieved to not have to, make that decision. But yeah, the fact that most of these guys are willing to come back. Ryan Jensen, I thought he was going to go too. And then you mentioned Leonard Fournette, who hasn't officially come back, but he had like, I think, a farewell post to Tampa Bay or something like that. He took that down, I think, shortly after Tom made his announcement. So he's probably coming back. So yeah, Bucks. Shout out to all the real Bucks fans, and I guess all the bandwagoners. Hopefully, their seats are still warm. They can still, and hopefully they didn't, sell their Brady jerseys, and they can still keep them and wear them next year. But regardless, yeah, Tampa, and it makes sense too division wise. You mentioned Carolina, only the real, I would say, imminent threat right now. We don't know what's going to happen with the Saints. They still got who's going to be their quarterback. What's this team going to look like under Dennis Allen? And then the Falcons also, I think we know, kind of at the bottom of the barrel there. So it made sense that Tom came back, especially more so. You don't want to take that year off and then come back, and then maybe you're just not the same. So yeah, and I expect Gronk will be back too. We forgot to mention that because he's technically a free agent. So yeah, Bucks definitely looking scary. Or not scary, but they'll definitely be right back in the mix again with Tom Brady at the helm.